about within?
Mr. Watts, he's armed himself shots. Watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quendon! The man is a boxer, man. Why can't put in the boxer, man, to do that?
But since my cousin there is now you come up the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come up the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
If you hear me, black is beautiful. Santa Claus. Black is beautiful. It's a texture. Lift your head like me. You got to wear it for with dignity. How it was. Black is beautiful. I said, sing it along. Black is beautiful. Say, I'm black and brown. It's high time that we get rid of that old slave mentality.
One race from the same place that make the same trip on the same ship. So we must push one common intention. It's for a better life in the region. For we woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean and the Caribbean and the Caribbean.
Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 on a Thursday evening, Holy Thursday, the day before Good Friday, Easter weekend, the weekend of the Crucifixion and the Resurrection. Our program tonight is aptly described, the Crucifixion and the Resurrection. There is crucifixion in Guyana. People who do not agree with the government are nailed to the cross. Some are assassinated. Some are wrongfully prosecuted in the courts. Some are economically violated. Walter Rodney used to say the greatest violence is economic violence. That when a woman, a mother, does not have food to put in the lunch kit of her child to go to school, that is the greatest violence. The greatest violence. The greatest form of violence. So said Walter Rodney. Some of us are being crucified, nailed to the cross, shackles on our feet, shackles on our feet. I want you all never to forget this picture. Takungo Ogunse being unshackled by a police, shackles on his feet, shackles on his feet. We will show this picture over and over again. This is how it used to be during chattel slavery. Formal slavery ended in 1838. 185 years later, the son of an African, shackled. Another son of an African, kneeling down, stooping down to remove the shackles from the feet of his brother. This is Guyana in 2023. This is the apartheid Guyana. This is what used to happen during apartheid in South Africa. This is what used to happen during apartheid in the United States. This is what happens during apartheid in the Middle East, in the Palestine. Never forget this image. African people, never forget this image. They deny that they are an apartheid state. No longer can they deny. No longer. No longer can they deny. The truth will expose them, and that very truth will set us free. They can no longer deny that they're apartheid state, shackling an African in Guyana in 2023 because he mounted a platform to speak truth. Since when you cannot speak about the army and the police? How many times have Ravi Dev, Betaram Ramarak, and many other Indian commentators not say that they want the police and the army to reflect Guyana, to look? They say to have more Indians in the army. Were they inciting racial hatred when they called for the army to have more Indians? Let's talk some truth on this Holy Thursday. They want the army to have more Indians. Are they inciting racial hatred? Ogunse says the army has a lot of Africans. And they say he's inciting hatred. Our Indianist commentators talk openly about the fear of an African army, the fear of an African army. They have not been charged for racial hatred. Takumo Ogunse talks about an African army. And he's hauled before the courts. Oh Guyana, This is what you've become. We must never forget that is what Irfan Ali and Barra Jagdeo have done to black people in 2023. They do it, they shackle our feet economically, they shackle us politically, they shackle us culturally, they assault our very soul. And now they've brought it out into the open. Shackles on our feet, shackles on the feet of that brother. We must never forget that image. Never forget that image. Tomorrow is Good Friday. Celebration, observance of the Christ child, observance of the Christ child. The hymn, 40 years and 40 nights, thou hast been casting in the wild. We may not know, we cannot tell. What pains he suffered. The Christ child nailed to the cross, he hung and suffered there. And on the third day, he rose again. For 400 years, African people hung on the cross. They had a long Good Friday. And on the third day, they rose again to sit on the right hand of God. So says the Christian story. So says the Christian story. Long Good Friday. This image of a black man shackled and his little brother having to stoop down and to remove the shackles from his feet. There can be no sharper picture of apartheid than that. No sharper picture of apartheid than that. We may not know, we cannot tell, but we know that he hung and suffered there. Good Friday is tomorrow. We go to church. To ground with our God. As we remember this story, the story of a human being, a Prince of Peace, nailed to the cross. You don't nail a man to the cross just like that, he must have represented a threat to something you cherish. Tomorrow, as we remember the story of the Christ child, let us remember the story of the Henry boys. Let us remember the story of Quindon Bacchus. Let us remember the story of Orrin Boston and Peter Headley. Let us remember the story of Crummy Wing. Let us remember the story of Ronald Waddle. Let us remember the story of Robin Simon and those 13 men from Golden Grove, Haslington, Nabaklis, Victoria. Let us remember Brother Lowenfield's sister Myers, Sister December, and the G-Com people. Let us remember Sister Bullers as they spat on Jesus on that cross. Remember, they spat on her. Remember the people of Amelia's Ward in Linden. Remember the people of Moko, Arcadia. Remember the vendors in front of the hospital. They too were nailed on the cross. They too had their Good Fridays. They hung and suffered there. Let us remember Pandit Ubrajnarayan, trampled upon as he put his body on the ground. He too had his Good Friday, nailed to the cross. Let us remember the little children at Woodley Park. Let us remember Aris Singh of number 5. Let us remember the children who were stoned on March 6th as they sat in a school bus. They too had their Good Friday. They hung and suffered there. Thorns and thistles were placed on their heads. Let us remember the 5 brothers from Linden who were massacred because their people dared to sit on a bridge to cry to the mountain top, "Do not take electricity away from us." They hung and suffered there. Tomorrow is Good Friday. The next day is Holy Saturday. And then we rise early on Easter Sunday to proclaim to the world, we ain't dead yet. You kill I today, but you can't kill I tomorrow. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 on a Holy Thursday. Some of you may have already baked those cross buns. Some of you may wait until tomorrow. But in this Easter time, we fly the kites. We fly the kites to remember the resurrection, those who crucify us, those who continue to crucify us, whether in word or deed. We hope this Easter weekend will cause them to reflect on their wicked ways and turn away from it. Because if they don't turn away themselves, we're going to have to turn them around. And if we're going to turn them around, nobody should be able to turn us around. They use the word rhetoric. David Hinds' rhetoric. Racist rhetoric. A twisted notion of reality. The sons and daughters of enslavement, the recipient of modern day enslavement, crying out, as the mighty sparrow said to that wicked man, and they are called racists. Those who call us racists are not ignorant. From the high ones to the low ones to the middle ones, they're not ignorant. They call us racists so that we will put our tails in between our legs and go away. This image, you all must never forget. Pass it on to all your children and your grandchildren, so that generations to come will know of this moment. A black man, shackled, and his little brother bending down to remove the shackles from his feet. We are riding out this storm. Ride out our storm, but this time we must make sure that there are no other storms like this one. We must end oppression as we know it. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. My guest tonight knows more about this story than I do. Apostle Nigel London. Good evening, my brother.
Greetings and hello to you, Dr. Hinds, and to those who are joining you, of course, via this platform and others. Greetings to all.
I think we have lost the areas. Yes.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share this platform with you this evening. Thank you. I'm grateful.
Easter, the season of the crucifixion and the resurrection. Speak to us.
Well, I found it quite interesting that you chose, or you would have been led to speak to that, because contrary to what many believe, I do not subscribe to the Eurocentric theme around it. I believe I'm a Hebrew person. I subscribe to what is called Passover or Pesach. So they're two different events altogether.
Yes.
When I look at the atrocities of Rome and what they have done to those who look like me and those who look like you, I cannot celebrate anything they consider to be in keeping with their Eurocentric religion. So there's at this set time, there's a season called Passover that the Hebrew people would remember and recollect where the Hebrew Messiah, who is not European, and you've opened a can of worms tonight, he is by no means European. He didn't have in him one bone of such dangerous, decadent behavior as they would have imposed upon his people. And we remember, therefore, I remember at Passover, the suffering of a people who were oppressed by those who wanted to have not just power over them, but to use them, and those being the Egyptians, to be able to have wealth through their struggles and through their strength and through their blood. And they could not care less about how many Hebrew people would have perished. All they wanted was to use them to build mega empires and so on. And we therefore have a right to remember the course of history. And it didn't end there because, of course, we know about the transatlantic slave trade. And you, of course, being a historian, would know so much about these things. But I've long said, even in my quiet moments, that the United Nations, for once, got it right when they said that more than any other ethnic group, the Africans, which includes the Hebrews, would have suffered more extensively than any that we can think about. And today, even in our nation, when I saw Ogunse Takuma, a 70-plus-year-old man in shackles, and then I saw a video that went viral with a young Guyanese man of Indian descent, being very specific as to whom should be poisoned, who should be killed. He said black people should suffer these things. He was never in even a wire tie on his hand, not even a cable strap. But it was determined that this African man must suffer. We are in serious crisis, hence we have a right to remember the sufferings. And of course, because I'm Hebrew, my Messiah's name is Yeshua. He has never borne the name of a European. And these are all things I say to my brothers and my sisters. We have to know our history and know who gave us another history.
And know who gave us another history. I've been putting up that image of Brother Ogunse being shackled and that little young police boy stooping down to remove the shackles from Ogunse's feet. What emotions and reasoning go through your mind when you see that image?
I wonder how the young African, possibly Hebrew young man felt having to do what he did. And I vividly recall an interview with a South African judge. He was actually being questioned by one Julius Malema. And his argument was that he was just doing his job. He was what you call a black South African. And he would have been responsible for imprisoning so many others. And he said that he was simply doing his job. And Malema's argument I would like to use here, he said that if your job entailed the discrimination against your own people and enforcing a law that you know, if you were convicted about it, to be discriminatory, why would you do that to your own people? And he could not furnish an argument. His only position was that because the law existed, he had to enforce it. I feel for that young police officer, because to know, hopefully, he would know what is transpiring in his nation, he should be well aware of how selective this regime is in relation to who they persecute and who they seek to impose certain measures upon. That young man must have felt, I hope he would have felt, the pain of an entire nation of people, the pain of those, even his ancestors, how they would have felt, knowing that they had to, in their minds, just to live, pursue, track down in the bushes their own people and bring them back to Massa. I'm saying to those young men, even in the Guyana Police Force, and maybe they'll pick me up tonight when I get through speaking, you don't have to bring your own people back to Massa if Massa's ways are terrible and evil. We have to stand against this. We have to say, why must I put the chain on Ogunse's foot, but that boy Imran, who said that you must poison black people, why didn't we put a chain on his foot? It may cost you something named a job, but you will gain value as a human being.
And as you speak about that video that went viral, I want to share something that was sent to my brother Kidaki a few days ago. Take a listen.
Good morning. See the madness for you guys to get tired? Fucking racialness, Antonio. Huh? Ranger, I gotta fucking fight with. You understand? Go and fight with fucking Ranger. You've been in there for 3 years. You know, confident motion is after the election. He's stretching for reach 5 years and still you want to give up. Go and fight with fucking Ranger. And your mother's cunt one power, you can't clean your fucking batty hole. Eh? And your fucking black racial cunt in Guyana. Eh? And you want fucking power? And you can't wipe your fucking batty, you can't beat your fucking skin. Boxing a fucking baton. I not get a fucking right man for coming fucking box stand for settle your cunt. Every fucking day I talk shit fucking racialness. I never try fucking self in the fucking ocean. Go and fight a fucking Ranger, Harman, and knock the Muto and Ramjatan. Tell me the one, the people vote for their, you know why the fucking people vote for fucking thief, man. You know PNC is a fucking thief. I thought the PASC is a thief, man. It's a fucking bandit. I just come to my work. I want thief and rob and kill and destroy. I not get the fucking right body for that. The fucking government should have called in the fucking US. Settle your squint properly. I play fucking mad again. I have black mother squint you. Eh? You got cause your squint day and night. Eh? What do you think? Are you fucking powerful? See, what I have to talk squint when you clean your fucking country. If I like your country, come out and work and clean your fucking country. Where the people government for do everything? Mr. Norton want fucking free money. You want to do fucking blank check with the man right. Where the blank check gone? Huh? Are you mother's cunt holding a black mother's cunt are you? I'll fight a fucking Ranger. Fucking are you fucking hungry belly? Cricket will call you fucking hungry belly, dog belly, or not fucking belly. Alright, a fucking arms out again there. I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want this. What is quanta you want? Are you black mother's quanta in there?
There you all have it. I hope it was clear. Comments, Brother London?
He is, this creature is an unfortunate representation of the minds of many. And I hope that now that it's aired, someone wouldn't say that they didn't know, because I know that your shows are monitored, your platform is monitored. So hopefully there'll be letters being written tomorrow, and there'll be condemnations being dealt by the PPP and by the 4 from PNC and APNO, wherever they came from. There'll be equivalent, or I should say even stronger condemnation, condign condemnation for the likes of this person. Because we have an issue in our country where when one set of people speak, it's called an expression of frustration. But when African descendants speak, you're racist. And I must ensure that I insert this with extreme caution. Every Guyanese of all walks of life must understand that if one loves himself and one loves the history attached to himself, he cannot be deemed racist if he speaks of it with any degree. of honor, and if he defends those of his ethnicity, rightfully speaking. I do not uphold wrong behaviors, but there's a plight, an intellectual plight among many in this nation and those in the diaspora who believe that whenever Africans begin to speak, and it happens in the USA too, I'm sure you're aware of this, whenever African descendants begin to speak about our Africanness, there's a tag on us saying that you're racist. So am I to take it that we're supposed to be quiet about who we are, while everybody else could speak highly about what they represent? There's a young man from India who spoke about the atrocities of Britain and what Britain would have done, and he said that you Caucasians have done an injustice to us in India. And he was right. He was deemed a hero. But if you say it or I say it when it's done to Africans, we deemed racist. We have to address this. And I must again say that this is cautionary. Guyanese, you should never have an issue with anyone who stands up for those of his people and everyone else. But I cannot defend the cause of an Indian brother, the cause of an Armenian brother, a Chinese brother. And when it comes to my African brothers and sisters, or my Hebrew brothers and sisters, I should be quiet lest I offend another ethnicity. I'm prepared to offend any other ethnicity if I speak highly of my own people.
And you know, Brother London, is the subtext, you know? Is the subtext. It is that the lives of these people, the dignity of these people that we are seeking to defend and to protect them from further beating is as if it's worth nothing. And that's the subtext. I don't think the brothers and sisters quite understand when they tell us shut up. What they're saying those people's lives are not worth fighting for.
Correct. Indeed so. Indeed so. And I look at Tukuma's situation, and I remember the young attorney who was accused with bullets of Nirvan Singh. The DPP, the director, within her judgment said he didn't say anything in reference to the accusation that would incite any harm to anyone. So without even giving Bullis an opportunity as is a constitutional right to be heard in court, the director of public prosecution decided that this doesn't have to go there. Takuma Ogunse, as far as I'm aware, and please guide me if I'm mistaken, in my reading, that's as much as I could have done. I did not hear him identify a particular ethnic group that should fight another. I'm searching for it and not finding it there. So is it that somebody just gathered from his statement that, oh, you're talking about Africans against Indo-Guyanese? Because he didn't say anything specifically. Buller's complaint was that Nirvan Singh said that she's a black monkey and that black people are useless. At least he should have been heard. She should have had a chance to, in the court of law, have him defend himself and have her grief be heard, her grievance. But I'm trying to find, where did Ogunse say specifically that one ethnic group should turn and kill another ethnic group?
That's right. I was there. I listened to that speech many times. I have a transcribed version, so I can now read it.
Excellent.
That brother has not committed an offense. He has not said anything racial. And yet they charge him with exciting. It's as if you can't mention the police and the army. You know, Ravi Dev and those brothers say that the army and police should have more Indians.
That's what they said. Why?
Are they inciting racialist hostility?
They are. And I would say that without reservation, because there's a cause for them saying that. And the cause could be what they attached to Brother Tukuma's statement. That if we have more, or we have a level playing field, and anyone is to turn the guns, then we have people to fight each other. I have a right to deduce that from Rafi Dev's statement.
Thank you very much, my brother.
I have every right to.
Thank you very much. Why do they want the army and the police to have more Indians? Because they want those Indians to prevent the Africans and the army from turning their guns on Indians. That's their subtext.
But is that not a plausible reasoning if we want to conflate that to join it to what Ogunsi said?
That's right.
If Ogunsi never mentioned an ethnic group and they deduce it, listen, it has some racial tone to it. It's a trope of some sort with something attached to it. And Ravidev says we need to have more Indians in the army. What wrong is there in you or in I saying, listen, well, maybe Ravidev has Ogunsi's mentality. It's only fair. It's only fair. So maybe Ravidev has to be dragged to the court, find him, hunt him down wherever he is.
That's right. Go get Ravidev and carry him before the courts. Because he asked to interfere with the army and police and to make it racially inclusive.
Exactly.
Go hunt him down for attempting to create mutiny in the army.
We have to demand that, because if we do not demand it, then we're saying that our reasoning is below that of those who are accusing Ogunsi. No, let's all reason on the same level then. Let's reason on the same plane, that if Ravidev could say something and Ogunsi could say something that simply just expands a little bit on what Ravi would have said, then let both of them be before the court to say, this is what you've done. Anyone who speaks to an ethnic group being in the army, being or the composition of the army, you're inciting hostility. Because when Ogunsi said, and I don't want to even venture into the path of being a legal luminary of any sort, but when he said, okay, the guns are turning in the wrong direction, what does that mean? Is there an instruction to do something to somebody? But these individuals are quick to say that because he said that, let us make an example of him. And further, I say that when I saw that young police officer there, I also noted that there was a comment made by a political figure who said, hey, why is it taking so long for Ogunsi to be arrested? Thereafter, Ogunsi was arrested. I sat and I thought to myself that I have the right, therefore, to deem Ogunsi a political prisoner, because action was only taken when a politician said, why is he not arrested? Action was taken when politicians and their friends decided that they're going to call for this to happen. And because Ogunsi represents the WPA, which is known as a political party, it was therefore used as a means to have a political message being sent. That is what I deem to be a political prisoner. And we must in Guyana understand that when we begin to function or utilize arms of the police force to go after persons based on utterances by political figures, you are creating an environment that mirrors that of South Africa and Russia to some extent, North Korea and many other places, where we have a number of political prisoners who will be therefore captured, and be made as tools in the hands of those who want to use them to send messages across the nation. We have received, or I have received, clearly the message where Ogunsi is concerned, that the likes of Ravidev and others are entitled to making statements, but the African descendants had better watch what they say.
Yes, selective injustice. You know, brother, I don't like to speak too much to Indian people on this program, because I think Indian people don't need me to speak to them and tell them what to do and what not to do, as other Indian commentators seek to tell Black people what to do and what not to do. But the government and other Indian commentators are translating opposition to the government to mean attack on Indian people. Speak to that for me.
I shall. And it's an unfortunate truth and an unfortunate reality for most Guyanese who are of an intellectual standard that we can reason beyond that shade or that facade. When someone suggests that anyone who opposes the administration is in opposition to Guyanese of Indian descent, or Indian people as they put it, it tells me then that the likes of Mark Phillips, Hugh Todd, the Minister of Tourism, and others, Joe Hamilton and y'all, You are non-existent in this equation called the PPP. Because if you are a part of, which is what Anil tried to say, listen, we're not racist. We have got a few Africans among us here. We have got a prime minister, he said, who's African. So how could we be racist if the second in command is African? Mark Phillips is not the second in command, of course, Anil. We all know that, and you know that very well. But the fact that the suggestion is that whoever opposes the PPP administration opposes Indian people, when they say that, indirectly or directly, they're announcing therefore that the PPP, I said it years ago and I said it repeatedly, is a party for Indian descendants. So you're racist. You're discriminatory in your composition. And Guyanese are limited in their responses, and those who are weaker in the constitution psyche, they're afraid, if they're of African descent, to say how they feel. This is painful to me, to know that Africans, even those who support the PPP, cannot say how they feel. They have to therefore turn against their own African brothers and sisters to show that they are in support of the PPP. Because if ever you speak against the PPP, you speak against Indian Guyanese people. And that kind of politics, that tribal politics, is going to hurt the development of this nation, because there are generations to come who are not inclined to follow this narrative, but they're being forced to do so, lest they fall out of love or the good books, even in their households. This has to change. We have a right to oppose any administration, and if an administration is deemed to be racist in their orientation and in the way they treat with people, and systematically so, anybody has the right to call them out, especially the people who feel the brunt of their racism and their discrimination. And at this time in Guyana, the African descendants are feeling that. At this point in time in the world, the African descendants are feeling that. Let us not hide. Let us not be afraid to say it, because I will say that the PPP civic is inherently racist in their behavior.
Inherently racist in their behavior. You know, brother, last night I watched the program. It was on Globespan, and I saw the two guests were Betoram Ramarak and Dr. Betoram Ramarak and Dr. Terence Blackman, and Dr. Vishnu Bisram moderated. And Dr. Ramarak was very critical of the opposition, very critical of me and others and so forth. But he said one thing. He said, how can you in 2023, and I'm paraphrasing him, shackle a 71-year-old black man? And he said that thing has historical resonance.
Yes.
And the African on the panel brushed it aside, didn't comment on it, didn't say anything.
Oh boy.
An Indian man who is critical of the opposition. So he's no friend of ours.
Right.
He spent 90% of his time last night bashing us. But he made that observation. And the African could not even say, oh yeah, Beto, it didn't occur to me, but thanks for mentioning that. Couldn't he said nothing?
Yeah,
reinforcing the point. And Dr. Blackman is not a self-hate hater. He's a respectable man. He's very bright. But the shackles on Brother Ogunse's feet seems to be on his mind. Yes. And I watched that brother who I loved sat there and said not a word. And the Indian man who doesn't love Ogunse politically could say it.
And it's so sad, is it not? Because I also, and I know that it said that you would have, I read it, that you said that you don't inform the opposition, the official opposition, I should call them, about Ogunse turning himself in. That reaches the point, but he was there for a weekend. So over the weekend, I'm here in London and I'm saying, okay, I should see at least 500 people or so, or certain leaders standing in front of the police station, demanding, even having a candlelight vigil, demanding that there be awareness and that there be justice in this matter. So when Ogunsi was about to be freed now, they're still saying, now, what has happened to us in the city and on the coast? This is not a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, or 40-year-old politician we're looking at. This is a senior man in this nation being shackled. In February, they talk about having Black History Month in the USA. In Guyana, we're seeing a man dressed in his African garb, shackled, 71 years old or so, could be a grandfather, could be a great-grandfather, shackled. What message, therefore, have we sent to the world? And I'm speaking to the political figures here in the opposition. What message have you sent to the world about your response to this? This should have had a crowd of APNU AFC officials saying, this Ogunsi represents me. This is me. I am Ogunsi. Because if you do this to him, you do this to me. But the withdrawal, the distancing of themselves from the situation, I had me here in Linden fuming, because I would not be in Georgetown and have this happen and not show up to say that I demand the freedom of Ogunsi, or I demand the incarceration of the likes of Dev, and any one of them who would have said that the police force in ethnic composition and the army in ethnic composition doesn't look right. We need to add some more Indo-Guyanese to this fray. That in itself is a message. And I therefore express publicly my displeasure in the response, because it's not just about Ogunsi's utterances, of course, being met with much confrontation and challenge and condemnation. The fact is, this is an African man who said nothing that is different in its implications, if you want to mirror it, to what Ravi Dev said. He wasn't as bad as the man. The voice note you just played there. That listen to that person speaking to Kodaki. Where is the condemnation for this kind of behavior? My thing is that if an Ali sings this chorus about one Guyana, but he doesn't condemn Indo-Guyanese racists. He doesn't ever do it. He's never done it. Never has he. As far as I'm aware. He would sit before Facebook, a camera to go live on Facebook. He hasn't come on camera to say that he condemns certain things. No. And we must all ask him why. Why not?
My brother, you hit on a very important point there. Barrett Jagdeo, a week ago or so, in his press conference, one of his press conferences, said that he is not joining with the opposition. One, because there's no trust. Now, he can't know whether the opposition trusts you or not. He can only be talking for himself. So he's saying he don't trust the next side. But he went further. He said we don't share values.
That's right.
This is the one Guyana people who are saying we will have one Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't trust the rest of you all over there. We don't share values with you all. So one Guyana means that if we're going to join with you all will have to be subjected and subjugated.
Yes.
Comment, my brother.
Yeah. Yes. And that is seen in how business is conducted, in how contracts are awarded, in how persons are, because the images are everything. And when certain images are displayed across this nation, it highlights the value system in the minds of one set of people as opposed to the other. I have a great issue, not with entertainment, but with the fact that whenever African Guyanese are seen, they're seen as being people who dirty and as hits and jam, stink and dirty, the kind of verbiage is attached to us. And then when you see the news reports, You see a contractor showing Air Finale where the road is going to be and the road development. So the multi-billion-dollar projects, you see the Indo-Guyanese flooding it in reference to what they represent. But the Stink and Dirty group, the Skeng group, that's us. And when we have that kind of value system now being uttered in reference to description by Jagdio, he's saying to all African Guyanese in general, because APNU is known to be, or PNC is known to be the black people party, as they say. Yeah. So he's saying, listen, we don't have the same value. I'm not prepared to be anywhere close to y'all because I am of a different value system. I'm of a different ilk, and you will not get to my level. That is why I know that Barrett Jagdio doesn't say anything about One Guyana. Irfan does. Because Jagdio is as cold as that. And I would like to say that I respect him for that. At least he's honest about how he feels about people.
Yes. My brother, what's happening at Linden there? What are they saying about the recent developments? I know you're a person with your ear to the ground. What's peculiar in Linden?
We have a situation here, and I staged a protest with others on Monday, and I'll be back there on Tuesday because I know this holiday period people would necessarily be in their religious mode. But on Tuesday morning or by midday, I'll be back there again standing because it has to do with the Mecca of sport and then the Mackenzie Sports Club. Mm-hmm. And an atrocity committed by, in my view, the administration, more so Charles Ramson. The sports club has a huge plaque in it, in the pavilion, that says this pavilion was donated to the Mackenzie Sports Club by the Demba, the Mara Bauxite Company. Ramson acknowledged that in 2021 that the sports club is owned by the people of Linden. The government has known it. But now developments about it has started. He said that they had to get a loan from China. And I just want to summarize so you can understand what the cause is.
Yes.
They had a loan from China. And in order to get, not a loan, a grant. Now, in an oil-rich economy, pumping millions of barrels of oil, receiving billions of US dollars, Ramson is saying that they had to get a grant to upgrade this facility. And in order to get that grant, the government, according to him, had to show ownership of Mackenzie Sports Club. Hence, NISIL handed it over to them. Now, I'm a member of that club. I have never heard of NISIL owning that club because I pay dues to the club and I don't know NISIL having any receipt that speaks to payments being made. So this has been wrenched from our hands. That is not the major issue, though, Dr. Hines. The issue here is that a PPP associate, the liaison officer in the person of Yannick Charles, told us in the group, the members, to shut up. That's Kashif Mohammed's son. Shut up. You will be respected when you support, or if you support this. So this is the One Guyana we have here, and we have in Linden, because I know in Region 6 there's a huge board showing what this future the site would look like, the stadium, what it would be like. Across other parts of the country, you've got signs saying the road is about to be built to the tune of $1.2 billion. There are billboards all around. But in Linden, we have nothing. And we, the members, have said, we need to see what you're doing. And we're told you would not see anything. Shut up and don't stop development, because you'll only be respected if you support. And that, my brother, led me to the streets of Linden. Trinidadians are given the contract. And Trinidadians are telling me in Guyana, in my hometown, that I couldn't walk into the facility, of which I'm a member, to have a video camera shooting what they're doing, because they're building an ICC standard cricket ground. That's what they're doing. And he said, I am not allowed to record that. A Trinidadian, he got on the phone and called the contractor, his boss, who called whoever it was, and a police officer was sent to me, a Guyanese, in Linden, to say that I should not be in the ground because they don't want me there. Of course, my brother, I said, I'm happy that Mr. Passad, the police officer, understood. I said, your only responsibility is to execute and enforce a lawful instruction. You'll have to tell me there for what law I'm breaking. He couldn't cite any. And I said, a Trinidadian could be in my country telling me that I'm not allowed to walk into a ground in my town to see what they're doing. That is what they're doing to Linden. Linden is under siege. And the most painful part is that our political representatives are just as quiet as those in Georgetown. So there may have been some statement made or some decision made that they're not going to really stand publicly and defend the cause of the Guyanese anymore. Maybe that's what they've decided, that they're going to roll over and just have things happen.
Apostle London, on this Holy Thursday, as we move into the Easter weekend or Passover, as our brother from the Hebrew tradition said about this weekend. Brother, any message, special message from you? Anything you really wanted to say that I didn't ask you about?
I'm so grateful that you've given me the opportunity to do so. And I would like to say in reference to another matter, that's the ICJ, the matter where they ruled, rightfully so, in Guyana's favor thus far. I saw a statement, and I don't want to appear to be just bashing the opposition, but I believe in good governance. I believe in people being honest and straightforward with Guyanese. And I saw APNU AFC saying that they join with the people and the government of Guyana. And when I saw the first line, I said I would certainly, on any platform, including mine, remind APNU AFC, first of all, that you're part of the government, because you represent the opposition, the official opposition. You are a part of the government. You sit on committees. If there needs to be a 2/3 majority vote, you have to vote on the matter regarding the governance of this nation. So you are the government. You are a part of the government. You govern democratically. I don't take lightly certain statements being made. And more so, let's not forget, the person on the other side said that he was prepared to cede a part of our region, or maritime, to Venezuela. Let's not forget that. Jack Dio said he was thinking about it. So who therefore led the charge in this matter? It was not him. And I would not celebrate anything with Jack Dio, who was willing to, at one point, to consider just releasing this so Venezuela can have their way. I caution, therefore, not just the opposition, but all Guyanese, to be bound by the principle of fairness and justice. We need that in our country. I finally would like to say that to Kuma Ogunse, that brother, that man, that father, that grandfather, has a right to be defended by every man in this country, in the context that if he is singled out for persecution and anyone else can walk free, then we must understand that we're living in an unjust society and something must be done about it. I'm not looking to women to stand here. I'm looking for men in Guyana to understand that when injustice is meted out against one of us, and this is not about African here, when anyone can be singled out by the state for this degree of humiliation, and others can do worse and walk freely, then the men of the nation are feeling that nation. And that's what I really want to say tonight, Dr. Hines. The men of Guyana are failing this nation.
The men of Guyana feel in this nation. My brother, thank you so much for coming on and, of course, bringing your wisdom to bear. And here is wishing you Passover of tranquility and reflection.
I'm most grateful.
Thank you very much. And to your audience, it's Holy Thursday. Tomorrow is Good Friday, Easter Saturday, and then Easter Sunday, followed by Easter Monday. It's a moment for deep reflection, but our reflection must be an active reflection. It must not be a reflection that sees the Christ story in isolation from what is happening today in the world, in our Guyana. The shackles on the feet of Takuma Ogunse should never be forgotten. Share it widely. Share it so your children and grandchildren can see the Guyana that they face if we do not stand up. If we do not stand up and let our voices be heard. Brother Walter Rodney says that we must unite across racial lines, unite across social class lines. But he talked about an active unity, Not a theoretical unity, I'm paraphrasing him here, but an active unity. And here's wishing all the Christians, the Hebrews, a weekend of reflection, active reflection. I quoted from that hymn, we may not know, we cannot tell what pains he had to bear, but we do know he suffered for us. He hung and suffered there. We do know it was for us. He hung and suffered there. He didn't do it for himself. And Ogunse did not and is not doing this for himself. He's doing it for us. He hung, he hangs, and he's suffering there. Last night, Brother Nigel, you said, we are talkers and not doers. Let's make a liar of Brother Nigel and translate our talk into doing. Some of you have already done that. Some of you have contributed to the Takumo Ogunse Defense Fund. Thank you very much. Those of you who still want to do so, you can do so. That is action. That is action. That is action. That is action. But we want to go further. We want to go further. And here are the handles that you can contribute to that fund. Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, the PayPal handle is the same for Zelle. But I'm saying when we're finished with this Easter weekend and we return, we've got to match our talk with some active talk, with some action. Supplement our talk with action. After Easter, we move. We move like the kites that we will fly in the sky. Flying and pitching. We have to begin to fly high like those kites. We have to move beyond the crucifixion and make real the resurrection. Make real the resurrection. I'll see you all on Monday. I'll see you all on Monday. The struggle goes on. The struggle goes on.